Hello, and welcome to the Black Ponder. I'm Neil Trotter. Today we're going to be talking about film. Hey, why not, right? Actually, we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite films, just ever. That is Waking Life, and it's by Richard Linklater. Now, I first saw this movie in college, actually. It was a philosophy course. Now, I did not study, my major was not philosophy. It was one of those elective courses. You know how a lot of colleges are. They require you to take classes that have absolutely nothing to do with your major, so you can get a well-rounded education. That's the idea, or whatever. So I took philosophy thinking like, oh, that's going to be an easy course, because in philosophy, people just talk about ideas, and that's pretty much all they do, so it should be easy, right? That's what I was thinking. The professor showed this video during class, and I think we were supposed to have a discussion about it, but I gotta tell you, I didn't understand what the hell was going on in this movie at all. When I first saw this movie, it's a very dialogue heavy film, and they were throwing out these concepts and these ideas, and people were saying all these things, and they were using a lot of big words, and a lot of people were talking really fast, and it just confused the hell out of me. I didn't understand what the hell was going on at all. And I mean, the whole movie just went right over my head, to be completely honest with you. Despite that, though, I was still very intrigued by the movie. And I guess that's just kind of who I am. When something confuses me or I don't understand something, I get very intrigued by it, and it sparks my interest. So that movie was actually, I guess you could call it a catalyst to my start of studying philosophy as like a hobby or just a side thing. The movie really got me interested in philosophy in general. After watching that movie, I started just picking up philosophy books and just reading them on the side, just because I was just so intrigued about the concepts. Several years went by without me rewatching the movie. I almost forgot about the movie, actually. I was studying philosophy on the side, and I almost forgot like what kind of got me interested in studying philosophy from the get-go. Right, but then I went to this music store, a music store I go to all the time, and they happen to sell movies as well. And I saw this movie, like on the shelf, and it immediately brought me back to that time. I was like, "Ooh, I remember that movie. I remember that movie. I definitely remember that. That was a movie that confused the hell out of me. It had all these ideas, and I didn't know anything about it. I'm gonna buy that movie. It was pretty cheap, so I bought it." And I rewatched it, and I was able to understand everything after several years passed, and I studied. I read a lot of philosophy books. I was able to understand everything. It was a very rewarding and fulfilling experience for me. But despite the fact that I was able to understand the film, this movie is like an onion, as the saying goes. You peel it, and there's just layers upon layers upon layers. It doesn't matter how many times you rewatch this movie, you're always going to get something new. Because that's how philosophy is. It's like an ongoing study. There's all these ideas that are multi-layered, and there's always something you can get every time you rewatch this movie or read a philosophical text or anything that has to do with just philosophy in general. That's one of the reasons why I like this film as well. So what is this movie about? Let me give you a brief synopsis of the plot, right? This movie is about this young dude, this man. He seems to be caught in some dream world or some sort of alternate reality. He keeps like waking up, not so much like the Groundhog Day type of waking up, but more like it's more of a dream world type of situation. And he's trying to figure out what is going on, like as he's going through this dream world, he encounters these people who are just feeding him these philosophical ideas and these concepts, these very interesting reflections and ideas about life in general. And he just, every time these ideas reach some sort of crescendo, he just wakes up again in his bed, and he's like, what is going on? And he starts he's really trying to struggle with figuring out what is going on. This movie is also an animated film. It uses this animation technique called rotoscoping. Rotoscoping is a very old way of animating films. So this film is shot completely in live action first. So they take the live action frames, and they, back in the old school days, they would repaint them over, but frame by frame, right, to give this animation look. They don't do that anymore now. With this movie, they used computer software to do that. So they took away some of the tediousness of it. It was still a very hard process to do, but they were able to rotoscope it more efficiently, and it looks very beautiful. The film, this animation style makes the movie look like a moving painting, and it really provides that sense of, okay, this is definitely some sort of surreal, dreamlike world that's happening. And it definitely makes you feel like you're in some sort of alternate reality. The cinematography is really good. So whether or not we talk about film or books, it doesn't matter. We're going to still talk about quotes, because that's what the Black Ponder is all about. We talk about quotes, specifically ones that jump to me, and then I discuss them. And, if you would like to discuss them with me, that's cool. And if not, hey, just listen to what I got to say, or not. It's all good. But that's what we do here at the Black Ponder. So I'm just going to share with you some quotes from the movie that jumped up to me. And all of these quotes that I'm going to share with you, they're not necessarily my favorite quotes in the movie, because I have a lot of favorite quotes in the movie. In fact, most of what's being said is pretty much very interesting to me. But I can't show you all the quotes, or I'll just be showing you the whole movie. These are teasers, because I want you to watch the film. It's a very intellectual, cerebral type of film, but that doesn't matter. Anybody can still find enjoyment in this movie if you take the time to sit down and kind of think about what's going on. The first quote I want to share with you is about this guy who's he's talking about just going along for the ride. He's actually driving a car. It's some sort of modified car that looks like a boat, or maybe it's like a boat that he converted into a car or something like that. And he's just driving this car, and he's talking about life and how you should just go with the flow. Check this quote out.
This is like my little window to the world, and every minute's a different show. Now, I may not understand it. I may not even necessarily agree with it, but I'll tell you what, I accept it and just sort of glide along. You want to keep things on an even keel, I guess is what I'm saying. You want to go with the flow. The sea refuses no river. The idea is to remain in a state of constant departure while always arriving. It saves on introductions and goodbyes. The ride does not require an explanation, just occupants. That's where you guys come in. It's like you come onto this planet with a crayon box. Now, you may get the 8-pack, you may get the 16-pack, but it's all in what you do with the crayons, the colors that you're given. And don't worry about drawing within the lines or coloring outside the lines. I say color outside the lines, you know what I mean? Color right off the page. Don't box me in. We're in motion to the ocean. We are not landlocked, I'll tell you that.
That was very interesting, wasn't it? I thought it was very interesting. Things that jumped up to me was the fact that he said whether he agrees or disagrees with it, what's going on and what's happening in his life, he's along for the ride. He's just going with the flow, and you got to be open to it. You got to be receptive to it. You might not agree, that's okay, but you should be receptive to it. And that's very important, because life is full of things, and if you're not receptive to all types of things, you can miss out on a lot of things. I like that go with the flow. I also like when he's talking about like the crayons. It's like some people are giving a 16-pack, some people are giving a 24-pack. It's true. That's a popular saying. Life deals you different hands. Some people get really good hands, some people get really bad hands, right? But it's not about the resources that you're given. That's ultimately not what life's about. Life is about what you do with those resources. How do you use them? That's really the point of life. That's where you can really get significance. Check out this other quote. This is from some sort of lecturer or a college professor or something like that. And he's talking about existentialism, actually, which is my favorite branch in philosophy. And this is what he has to say. This is one of the things that he has to say about existentialism.
It might be true that there are 6 billion people in the world and counting. Nevertheless, what you do makes a difference. It makes a difference, first of all, in material terms, makes a difference to other people, and it sets an example. And in short, I think the message here is that we should never simply write ourselves off and see ourselves as the victim of various forces. It's always our decision who we are.
That's so true, isn't it? It's very interesting. Oftentimes I encounter it a lot, especially around my age, but it happens throughout life in various age ranges. But what happens is people go through these things called, people call them existential crises, right? These situations where they kind of feel overwhelmed. And really, I think what it has to do more is about people are starting to come to terms with the fact that they are not the center of their universe, and they feel like, you know, things aren't going their way, and it's due to the fact that, you know, there's millions and billions of people in the world, and they kind of start feeling small, like, oh, you know, things aren't really going the way I want them to go, because, you know, I'm kind of insignificant, and do I really matter, and what's really my role in life? And really, it's a issue of just struggling with the feeling of being really small. That's what I think. That's when people say they go through existential crises, and they're like, well, do I really matter? You know, how am I going to make an impact in a world where there's so many different things going on? And you know, the world is filled with all types of people. You know, it's all, you know, there is, when you look at it a certain way, you are small, but that doesn't, again, that doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is, the things that you do, no matter how small you are, no matter how many billions of people there are in the world, no matter how insignificant you think you are, you're not really insignificant at all, because really what you do matters. It really does. And I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, that's just life, you know. It's not really a motivational speech I'm trying to give. What you do actually matters to people. It affects people directly and indirectly, and that's all there is to it. You know, no matter really what you do. You know, you could basically sit and do nothing, and that has an impact on society, what you really think about it. Or you can get up and actually do something, and that'll have even more of an impact on society. So really, you have to realize that you do matter, and you do make a difference, and you should care about what you do. And just because life isn't going your way, that's okay, because there's always a chance or some sort of opportunity for you to do something that can make a difference. Always. That's always the case. It doesn't matter what the situation is, really. Let's move on to another quote. This is definitely one of my favorite ones. Is this guy, he basically goes on this tirade, this rant about how he feels society is controlling people. Check it out, check it out.
It's up to each and every one of us to turn loose of just some of the greed, the hatred, the envy, and yes, the insecurities, because that is the central mode of control. Make us feel pathetic, small, so we'll willingly give up our sovereignty, our liberty, our destiny. We have got to realize that we're being conditioned on a mass scale. Start challenging this corporate slave state. The 21st century is going to be a new century. Not the century of slavery, not the century of lies and issues of no significance, and classism and statism and all the rest of the modes of control. It's going to be the age of humankind standing up for something pure and something right. What a bunch of garbage, liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican. It's all there to control you, two sides of the same coin. Two management teams bidding for control, the CEO job of Slavery Incorporated. The truth is out there in front of you, but they lay out this buffet of lies. I'm sick of it, and I'm not going to take a bite out of it. Do you got me?
I got to say that I agree with that guy 100%, even though he's very passionate about it. He's very frustrated. I understand his frustration. I think the best part of that, when he starts talking about how, like, people identify themselves as certain groups, like certain ideological sides, like Democrat, Republican, right, or all this and that, or just, and you know, it could be any types of ideological terms. Even you can go so far as to say like things like race or things like that. I'm black, you're white. This, that, and the other thing. You know, it's just two sides of the same coin. I love that quote. It's two sides of the same coin. These ideological camps, they're sociological constructs, really, when you really think about it. Meaning that they're false. They're not really based on a reality. They're based off of a made-up reality. Now, you can argue and say, like, well, these constructs could be false, but they're still constructs, right? And they still play a role in society. And that's true, but it's only because we allow them to play a role in society. It's interesting, I meet, like, let's just use the example, Republican, Democrat. I'm very fortunate because I live in an area where you have some of the most hardcore people who think they're, like, conservative, and you also have, like, super, I guess you can label these people liberal people as well, just these super free, flowing, open to anything in life. And then you got the really traditional, hardcore conservative people, and then you can meet anybody in between as well. And I'm able to talk to these people. I mean, you know, you can meet somebody who's next door who thinks the exact opposite of you, and you talk to these people and you find out that, you know, you talk to a Democrat and then they start saying saying certain things, and it's like, wait a minute, that thing that you said, that's a Republican idea. What you said, or you talk to a Republican and they'll start throwing these Republican ideas at you, and then they'll say something and they'll be like, and then I'll think like, wait a minute, that's something a Democrat believes in. It's funny. I do believe in the saying that there's more things that are the same about us than there are different. I mean, we might have differences of opinions, but we also, for the most part, agree on a lot of things. And we got to realize that. And the thing is, when you are divided, you're less powerful. When you're united, you're more powerful. And there are people in power who want the mass to be less powerful so they can rule the way they want to rule. So they want to keep you divided because you're going to be less powerful and you're going to be more easily controlled. And they perpetuate these ideas of race, political affiliation, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, even you can even go so far as different religious camps. You know, it's interesting. There's like within Christianity, there's like all these different denominations. It's just all these divisions. Even within religions, there are like little mini religions. It's almost ridiculous when you think about all these different affiliations and how everybody's kind of like in conflict with one another based off differences that aren't really based off any truth. And it really is a situation of you're just too busy arguing with each other and disagree with one another, and that is preventing you from achieving anything meaningful in life. And it can be a method of control when you really think about it. This guy's definitely onto something. Let's move on to another quote. Check out what this guy in a leather jacket has to say about life.
You can control that, you know.
Do you have these dreams all the time?
Hell yeah, I'm always going to make the best of it. But the trick is, you got to realize that you're dreaming in the first place. You got to be able to recognize it. You got to be able to ask yourself, hey man, is this a dream? See, most people never ask themselves that when they're awake, or especially when they're asleep. Seems like everyone's sleepwalking through their waking state or wake-walking through their dreams. Either way, they're not going to get much out of it.
The main character is starting to finally realize like he's dreaming. He didn't realize what was going on at first. He's like, okay, maybe I'm dreaming. The dude in the leather jacket starts talking about how you should realize you're dreaming. And when you do that, you're able to accomplish more things. What I take from that is this idea that being aware that you're alive, really. Oftentimes we live life and we aren't aware that we're actually living life. We're never in the moment. You know how that saying is, always live in the moment, but it's true. Oftentimes we don't live in the moment, and so we miss a lot of important things in life. Like sometimes we're too caught up in the future, like we're planning, and you know, planning is important. But don't ever forget about the moment. I think about people who, you know, have these ultimate goals in life and they don't ever seem to achieve them, and they just spend their life trying to achieve this dream that they never get to. And even when they get to that thing that they want to get to, then they want to try and get to something else, and it's like this whole life of just planning and just building up to some point that they never get to. And it's like, dude, like back up, be aware of what's happening now. And then you spend your whole life concentrating on this one thing, and then you turn around and you're like 80 years old and you realize like, wow, my whole life just went past me because I was never really paying attention. Same thing with people who are kind of caught up in the past. Like, you know, I've had many discussions about people who've experienced like really bad hardships, or, you know, they dealt with like really difficult things in their past, and they allow those things to affect them in the present. And it allows them to not live in the present. They're always thinking back about the past and what happened then. And sometimes they even use it as an excuse. Maybe they got some bad personalities and they're like, well, you don't know what I've been through. I've been through so much. And, you know, if you've been through exactly what I've been through, you would live the same way. And that, you know, maybe that's true and maybe that's not true, but that's not the point. The point is like your life is being flushed down the toilet because of something that happened to you in the past. Like, don't allow that to waste your life away. Maybe you need to get some help, get some therapy, or, you know, talk to a friend, or just start being aware that you're kind of like playing this victim role. And you know, and I'm not saying that horrible things happen and they don't affect people. They do affect people, but you got to realize that, okay, this is really getting in the way of my life and I need to deal with that. You know, that's what you have to come to terms with, right? Deal with it, you know, try and like go through the healing process. And then maybe you can finally live your life in the moment. And, you know, basically, whatever it is that's preventing you from living in the moment or not allowing you to focus on the present, you need to deal with that. And a lot of people do spend their lives never living in the present. They're always either living in the future or they're living in the past. And that's a shame because, you know, life really is about the present. Here's another quote of the film. This is a really good quote. And it kind of reinforces that idea even further. Check out what this guy has to say about time.
Actually, there's only one instant, and it's right now, and it's eternity. And it's an instant in which God is posing a question. And that question is basically, do you want to, you know, be one with eternity? Do you want to be in heaven? And we're all saying, no, thank you, not just yet. And so time is actually just this constant saying no to God's invitation. I mean, that's what time is. I mean, and it's no more 50 AD than it's 2001. You know, I mean, there's just this one instant, and that's what we're always in. And then she tells me that actually this is the narrative of everyone's life. That, you know, behind the phenomenal difference, there is but one story. And that's the story of moving from the no to the yes. All of life is like, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you. And then ultimately it's, yes, I give in. Yes, I accept. Yes, I embrace. I mean, that's the journey. I mean, everyone gets to the yes in the end, right?
I think that's a very powerful quote. And what I get from that is, even if you don't want to take it on a spiritual sense, then let's just take it on the fact that maybe time is this denial of reality and of its true nature. Let's go back to what I said before about, you know, something happened to you in the past and you're really bitter about it, and it's blocking you from really living. And so throughout your whole life you're saying, you know, this happened to me in the past. Why did this happen to me? This is messed up. This, that, and the other thing. I'm very angry. Of course I'm angry. I'm upset. This is horrible. Why did this happen? This, that, and the other. And you're just constantly like letting this thing in the past affect you, rather than just simply saying, okay, this happened. It was horrible. It's a shame that it happened, but it happened. So I need to somehow get over it. And is that possible? I don't know, but I'm gonna try so I can eventually try to live my life in some meaningful way. And same thing with people who, again, we're going back to what I said before about people who live in the future, right? Like, I want to achieve this goal. This has to be done. You know, I have to do this. If I don't do this, this is gonna happen no matter what. And their whole life they're just spending achieving this goal. And it, you know, it's good. It's all good to have a dream. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, I have dreams too, and they're really big dreams. But as the saying goes, right? It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Maybe it is the case that you will never achieve your goal that you want to achieve. That is possible. It can be the case. I know a lot of people who have achieved great things never had that in their mind. They're like, no, I'm going to achieve this goal no matter what. And that's, you know, that could work in some scenarios. But in certain scenarios, you can devastate your life trying to achieve something that is really unachievable. You know, a really popular example is Michael Jackson's Thriller album, right? And a lot of people know, like, Michael Jackson, he came out with that Thriller album, which is considered one of the greatest albums just ever made. And his whole life after the Thriller album, he was trying to redo that Thriller album, which was pretty much impossible, to be quite honest with you, because that was just incredible thing that, I mean, that comes like once in a lifetime if you're lucky. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta realize that and be like, okay, that happened. It's probably not going to happen again. What else could I do to enjoy my life? Do I have to reach that level of success to enjoy my life? Do I have to reach that goal to enjoy my life? What could I do now in the present day at this very moment to make my life worth living and make my life meaningful, not only for me, but for other people as well? I mean, these are the things that you have to think about. And, you know, when he talks about this illusion of time, yeah, I kind of get that. I would say more so it's an illusion in life. We kind of fool ourselves into not living in the present, or just not living life in general. And that kind of is interesting when you think about the title, Waking Life. You know, like, wake up. You know, we live life, but we're sleeping. We're kind of like dreaming. We're not really living life. So wake up and live life. You know. I mean, in that way, I can see the title of the movie being very powerful, because I think that's one of the messages of the film. Or maybe it's not one of the messages, but that's what I got out of it. That's one of the many things I got out of it. Anyway, check it out. The movie is called Waking Life. It's written and directed by Richard Linklater. Richard Linklater has done a lot of independent movies. I really enjoyed this a lot, and you might enjoy it too. You know, give it a shot. It's probably on Netflix. You know, I'm like one of the few people who don't have Netflix, so I wouldn't know. Maybe it's on Hulu. I know it's like on YouTube. You can rent it for like $3 or something like that. But this is a film I wouldn't rent, because you can watch this movie once and it will just completely go over your head if you're not careful. This is a movie I would buy. You know, I'd watch this movie multiple times. So if you're interested in living in the moment, or if you're interested in philosophy, or if you're interested in life, check out Waking Life. I think it's a good film. I really do. Thank you for watching. This is The Black Ponder. I'll leave you with this quote, and I'll see you next time.
Our planet is facing the greatest problems it's ever faced. Ever. So whatever you do, don't be bored. This is absolutely the most exciting time we could have possibly hoped to be alive. And things are just starting.